welcome back to the Riri Show. I am here with the OG Dmitry, co-founder of SubSquid. Hi, Dmitry. Welcome to the show.
Hey, hi, Riri. Very nice. And thanks a lot for having me on this spectacular show today.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been planning this for a little bit, so I've been excited to talk to you guys. You're shipping some incredible stuff, so I can't wait to get into all of this unique SubSquid chat. But just to start, could you tell me a little bit about yourself and your launch into SubSquid, all of that kind of stuff? What did you do before SubSquid?
Yeah, it was like a pretty long and bumpy road. I have background in software engineering and academia. So I hold a PhD in math. And I was actually pursuing an academic career when I fell into the crypto rabbit hole in like about 2017. Early 2018, where I decided that I really need to figure out how Bitcoin works finally, because I've been thinking that it's a scam, but it's been just like for too long around. So it's better to figure it out. And to my surprise, it's actually not a scam. So I decided to put a lot of effort into crypto. I did some independent research, published some educational stuff on Medium. And this is how I basically landed my first job as a chief scientist at a startup in Berlin. And then a bear market came about, and we actually closed the shop. And but once you're into crypto, it's really hard to get out of it. Everything else looks pretty boring. So I got another job as a developer at a substrate-based project called TrustStream. So they're building decentralized YouTube, and they have a lot of data on chain. So my task was to design a system so that they can actually show this information on their web platform. So it should be very quick, UX friendly, basically like the same experience that you have navigating YouTube. And it turns out that if you want to source this data directly from the blockchain, it becomes very slow and sluggish. So you would never get your like normies friends watching these videos, because everything's going to be very slow. So this is how this idea of having like data indexing middleware. And the key design decision was also had been made pretty much at that time, because we realized that in order to have this performance for the indexing speed and to be able to very quickly iterate and like keep all these data structures, we really need to have a better way to update our process, so we can actually add new stuff pretty easily and quickly without waiting for like days for everything to resync. This is how we decided to separate the storage of the on-chain data and actually the actual indexing, which does all these transformations and basically makes your data ready to be shown to the users. So that was an internal project for quite a while, and then after a year or so, it became clear that there is a huge interest from the community, and like we got accepted to the Substrate Builders program, and there is like early projects interested in adopting our basically internal stuff. So we decided, okay, probably it's better to have a spin-off and basically start a separate company. And around that time, my co-founder Marcel just like randomly texted me on Telegram saying like, "What's up, dude? I have a angel investor who is into crypto and looking for a next big thing." And this is like by pure serendipity, we landed our first angel check, and in just about a month, like we had our first team of 4, like building like crazy. So that's basically the rest is history.
That's amazing. So you basically saw an opportunity here. And I also, I always find it funny asking that question, because I find that everybody's first reaction to Bitcoin is that it's a scam, which makes me laugh, because I had the same reaction at first. But you're totally right. It's like once you're in crypto, everything else does truly seem boring. It's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So SubSquid. I would love to know, just for the viewers and myself, if you could tell us a little bit about what SubSquid is, in a nutshell.
So in a nutshell, Subsquid is what makes your favorite application in Web3 look like it is in Web2. So basically, if you use Subsquid, your web application or mobile application is fast, responsive, and you basically deliver the same user experience as if you were browsing like a Web2 world. If you unpack this, this comes from the idea that you actually prepare the data and make it readily available for the application that you're using. So instead of like taking it from the blockchain, you're taking it from a specialized service that already has it like indexed, prepared, and like very suited in order to show it to your users. So this is actually like 10x in user experience, but also it is like 10x in development experience. So the developers basically abstract away all the complexities related to the blockchain world, so they can you can, for example, hire a front-end dev to your project and just let him design the data that he wants to show to the users, like in a very declarative, simple form. And we basically take care of the hard part, which is like take this data from blockchain, convert it into the right form, make sure everything is in sync. So you basically connect these two words together.
Fantastic. So actually something that that I find interesting too is your use of the word squid. Can you tell me about the name a little bit?
Yes, so we spent about 2 days trying to find the right name for our company, like together with Marcel, and Squid just seemed very cool. And
Yeah.
first of all, it's a nice animal, but the key reason is that I just really like how the squid word looks on when you have a typeset, like a cool font for it, because when you type it, it's like this Q letter that's just like tail hanging out. So I just thought that that would be really cool, and have like we also managed to cook up some logos for it, like this is Q thing. So yeah, I'm like kind of visual thing, and Marcel actually has a design background, so I think all this like prettiness and visual attractiveness is like what really played the key role here.
Yeah, it is visually attractive actually. And it's a memorable name, which I really like also. And you can kind of tying in the squid itself along with
yeah. Everyone is like asking like, what the fuck is squid? Why?
Totally. Everyone's like, where did squid come from? But that's a good point, and it does matter, right? Like how you see and interpret a word on a page is a big deal, right? And especially with you guys, because all the computer work and stuff, so it makes sense.
Yeah, and a short like attention spans in crypto are like half a second, right? So you have to grab it.
Yeah, I know you spoke to me a little bit about Marcel already, and it's been incredible actually chatting with your team. I've had the opportunity to chat with you guys a little bit. But tell me about the team dynamic. Like you have, how did the rest of your team come together? When did you start onboarding more people?
Yeah, so it was a bit painful at the beginning because it's always hard to hire key people. And again, that was sort of a miracle that we hired our CTO and lead developer, Elder, who is like a true coding wizard. Actually, so we were looking for a guy who would help us to lead the development. And first we hired someone who actually I mean, that was a disaster, I would say, like that way. So we fired that person like about in pretty much 2 to 3 weeks after he started his job. And yeah, we were like trying, okay, where we actually find the right person, but then through like connections, say, okay, I actually know someone who is like a super coder. And that's how we were introed, and we basically hired after a single call. So, and then like the key lesson was to find good hiring agency, which we still work with, and we actually got really good candidates. So we extended our team quite fast. It was like really good people.
Yeah, for sure. I think some of the hardest parts of building, arranging a team, right? And I think, the team makes all the difference. So that definitely can be a little bit of a growing pain for sure. But I mean, once you have it all onboarded,
100%.
yeah, for sure. But I mean, that's kind of the experience of growing. And, it's kind of neat too, because I find too, like, as you see these teams come together, you see new relationships formed and new talent come in, and, it really helps with development of the project. So, but yeah, your team is spicy. I like it. It's been really nice talking to you guys. So natively multi-chain APIs and analytics, like this is big stuff. Can you elaborate on the importance of multi-chain and what this means for a united ecosystem?
Yeah, the point is that we are living in a world where the data is actually fragmented across different chains. So we cannot just take data from, like, assume that everything that the user cares about lives on a single chain, like in like Polkadot or like some other parachain, and especially in the Polkadot ecosystem, which by design consists of like multiple chains. So what we want to do, like the future that we're building, is that you don't care where exactly this data resides. You as a developer just care like what data you want to bring to your users. And we give you the tooling to collect this data in a single endpoint, in a single API. So this is what we are building together with SubSquid. I will talk a little bit more about this later. But most and foremost, we are providing the tooling to make sure that the developers get access to the data they want to bring them to the users, because there is like a big gap between the data that is stored in blockchain and the data that the actual users see on their screens. So we fill this gap.
100%. And accessibility is definitely a part of that. And actually, my next question was, why is accessibility of data important and what can you do with it? And I know you kind of elaborated on that a little bit, but why is it important to have that accessibility?
So this accessibility is actually about inclusion of like normie into the blockchain world, because if there is no way to pick into the data that is stored on chain, there is no difference whether you're trusting someone like Amazon or Facebook, or you're actually using a web like a Web3. So all this talks about decentralization are kind of futile if we don't let the user decide what kind of data he is seeing, what kind of data he is using. And in order to make such an informed decision, it should be possible to flawlessly navigate through the data that is stored on chain. So far, we have only explorers, which are pretty widely used. So then you can put in your address and track your transactions. But we believe that there will be tons of different data that is going to be stored on chain, off chain, or like something in between. And without the right tooling to track this data and monitor and get insights, basically there is no difference whether it is open source or closed source, because like if it's like so cryptic that no one can make sense out of it, like what's the point of like all this open data?
So my next question is actually, we talked a little bit about what SubSquid is, right? But really, how does SubSquid work? And I know you focused on kind of like a 3-step process here. Can you expand on what these steps are and how you were able to simplify it really to this level? Because, we just talked about accessibility of data, but now there's also like a simplifying, and you kind of made your SubSquid in general very accessible.
Yeah, sure. I can basically give a simple glimpse of how a Subsquid project looks like. So this is This is my browser. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it. That's perfect.
Yeah, so this is the starting point for pretty much all the Squid projects called Squid template. And this is where, this is how you actually build your Squid. And the key part is what is called processor. So basically it is responsible for grabbing on-chain data and transforming it. And if you look at these two lines, you'll see the key innovation of Subsquid, namely in this particular line. So the data is coming from the archive and from the chain. So the chain is just the gateway to the blockchain node, while the archive is a very specialized storage for everything ever happened in Kusama that can be extracted, filtered, and accessed in a lot more efficient way compared to knocking directly to this chain link. And here, later on, you just describe how this data is transformed into the into what you would actually need to show to your users. So in this particular example, this is pretty simple. So you get data from balances transfer events that are happening on chain and extract information like account balances and so on. What I think it's important to note here, because it may look kind of mysterious for non-dev, is that our product is built by developers for developers, and we take a lot of care and we invest a lot of time into make sure that we have everything like type safe. So we provide, we eliminate the possibility to make common mistakes while you manipulate this data. So in particular, in this code snippet, you have the possibility to track all the changes in the data through runtime upgrades. So runtime upgrades are like very hard to deal with because basically you can change all the rules of the blockchain world, and this is like a substrate feature. So if you, for example, set the rules on like 1 year ago, it's not necessarily the same as it happening right now. And this is kind of the power, but also it's like a big challenge for everyone who is trying to make sense of like what's going on. And we automate this in a very straightforward and a clear way. So you can see that the format was this, then later on it was like a bit different, and finally it was changed like at some later block. And you can unify it in a very intuitive way. So in a nutshell, we provide like a lot of tools around the data, and also like the key product for indexing, so that the developers can focus on what they actually want to bring to their users, like to the API. And if you want to like find it, how the final result look like, it's basically an API that you can play with. For example, you can query historical balances of your account and deploy your API to our hosted service. So in a nutshell, yeah, we bring the data stored on chain to the users and let the developers focus on the application, not on the way that the data is processed.
Something I like that you said was, you know, how something powerful can also be challenging. Because I think that's a really good point, is that there's a lot of things that, you know, help progress a project or a system, or, you know, help make something easy, but it doesn't mean that the process is easy. It's still a challenge. So, and that's important to know. It's not easy to build these things, right? But it does help. And I think, you know, in terms of dev too, like devs work so hard. There's a lot of effort that's put in there. There's a lot of time that's put in there. So anything that can, you know, simplify that process is always good. So what about scalability here?
So the scalability thing is also related to tooling that we use. In particular, the archives that we basically invented and put into the place is the right intermediary way to access the on-chain data. And the reason is that if you, for example, want to get like a million data points, you want to access the data through, like, say, 1,000 blockchain nodes. But blockchain nodes are actually quite expensive because you have to store all the chain data, you have to synchronize it, and like in general, it's like a pretty tedious to run a blockchain node. But instead, we do this job only once, and everything else is handled by Archive. So basically, Archive is set up once and for all, and then everyone can use and access this data from this service. So it's basically like comparing public transport with individual cars, right? So if you want to rely only on the blockchain nodes, that is basically like owning a personal car, while archives, it's sort of like a big bus or like a train that everyone can use, like, and say on the energy and like efficiency and everything. So this is how we approach the this bottleneck.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I really liked your analogy there too. It really helps with the non-devs like myself and people that don't code. And I think that's a big part of it too, is, you know, the education piece behind it, because that helps with adoption as well. Quick question. This is a personal opinion. What is your favorite thing about the Polkadot ecosystem?
Actually, the community. I really like how interconnected it, not only on the tech level, but also on the personal level. So everything is open, and project teams are very open. So you can just like drop a line on Telegram or in Discord, and then yeah, and then you just like meet these people at conferences, and they're like super happy. And sometimes you only know these people by their like weird avatars on Discord and Telegram, but like in person, it's just like even better. So even though it's like kind of the different personality, but everything is like so relaxed and so welcoming. So I think this is the key part.
For sure. I mean, I think it's no secret that I'm passionate about the community as well. So I really like that. And yeah, I think that's also my favorite thing about the Polkadot ecosystem. I love that, like just even being able to speak to you guys, you know, so casually in your team, and be kind of all interconnected that way. And, just through the interview series itself has just been so collaborative, and your team and whoever else, they've all been talking to each other, and everybody's just so united. So that's huge. What are some features you considered while building? Like, what are some things you were just like, man, we have to have this. This is a good feature.
We do a lot of dog fooding, which means that we build SubSquid for other teams and for the substrate builders community and whoever is developing on Kusama and Polkadot, but we also spend a lot of time using SubSquid ourselves. So, and actually one of our new product is built 100% on SubSquid itself. So that's how we internally evaluate what is useful, what is important, and how we can actually leverage the power of the tooling that we are developing to make the devs' lives easier. And sometimes we are also having very unexpected feedback from the community, because one thing that we invented, basically archives, was surprisingly useful and efficient for like developers, even though we never considered it like as a separate product. So that was like a bit of a surprise for us, but like we decided that, yeah, okay, this is probably like what people need. So let's also make it more usable and accessible. And this is what we like worked.
Absolutely. And that's definitely a key aspect for sure. And I think that I really like too, that your team is, like you said, really doing it yourselves, because I think that really proves something, you know what I mean? It's one thing building something, but it's another thing, actually putting the time and effort to understand how it would feel, I think, on the other end. Right. So really nice job there. Let's talk a little bit about the DAO aspect. Where are you on this journey? What is needed to participate in the DAO, et cetera?
Yes, so DAO is an interesting concept that was brought about by Web3. And my understanding of DAO is basically giving the community all the levers in order to to steer the product into the direction that is gradually becoming more and more self-sustainable. On the other hand, there is definitely a big problem of going decentralized when it comes to governance, because there is always there should be someone who is steering the development in the direction. So we start small. So we start building our community at Discord, and at a later stage we created super cool NFTs. So basically it's like a landmark. So whoever owns this NFTs automatically becomes like a powerful member of our community. And the next step is to actually give more and more power to the community who hold these NFTs and who become ambassador, and who actually will decide on how exactly this community is going to grow, and basically providing all the marketing support from the community side. And of course, it then plays a crucial role when the project becomes independent and decentralized, because community is basically what makes the token valuable on top of the actual utility of this token. So this is also something that never happened before crypto, because before that we usually talked about shares, never understanding the community value of the share. And I think the lesson learned was around 2020, 2021, where this Wall Street bad community actually showed the world that you have to you have to take care of it. Otherwise they can just short you down to zero, right?
Yeah, that was an incredible moment, actually. And it's funny you said that too, because that really plays, like what you just said, really plays into your favorite thing about the Polkadot ecosystem, which is community. So it makes sense that you would intertwine that kind of. But you also have a token. So you have SQD. Can you tell me about the utility here, and in terms of governance, really what does SQD allow you to do?
Yeah, so I think many projects basically consider communities their exit liquidity, and we do our best. That
I know we're laughing,
actually...
but we shouldn't be, but it's true.
Yeah. So we are not of that kind, certainly. So that's why we really put a lot of effort in figuring out how to make sure that token holders that are not necessarily tech savvy, or not necessarily dry node, actually do provide utility to the network, and can leverage their tokens to get additional income out of it. Because one thing is that you just let your users stake your tokens and give them even more tokens. This is basically indistinguishable from a simple Ponzi scheme or whatever it is, because you basically print more tokens and distribute it to someone who just does nothing, and just delegates to someone without even figure out who this guy is and whatever. And we are going to base our own model on the CRV. So basically, whoever has vote-bearing token on SQD will actually decide on the rewards flow in the system. So let me give you an example. We are going to have multiple archives for different networks. For example, Akala, Moonbeam, Moonriver, whatever. And if you support one of these networks, basically you can leverage your SQD tokens to increase the weight of this network. So, which would mean that archives nodes, people who are really tech savvy and who invest money and infrastructure in order to run these archives, are going to get more rewards running these nodes. So basically, like being part of the community of the other network, you will be able to help this network to become more secure and be more convenient for developers, because like the more archives running this, like the better throughput, like, and more devs can build on top of Subsquid here.
Well, yeah, and it really helps the project and the network flourish, right? And I think using you know, having that security with the community is a really good thing. So June, I know we chatted a little bit about this. I'm excited to know. But June's a really exciting month for you guys, and you have a lot coming up. And I mean, at the end of the month, the whole Polkadot ecosystem has a lot coming up. I mean, there's, you know, Decoded is coming up and all these crazy events, but you have two very key and large releases coming up. That would be Fire Squid and Giant Squid release. So can you tell me about both of them, what they are, the releases, the information, shill us some alpha here.
Yes, so first of all, the Fire Squid and Giant Squid are two completely different products.
Mm-hmm.
So Fire Squid is a release of our core stack. So basically, it's probably the most advanced indexing stack on the market when it comes to data, because it consists of like Fire Squid archives, which is like a truly horizontal, scalable storage for on-chain data, and Fire Squid processors, which is probably the most efficient way to extract and transform this data. So this product is targeted for developers who will leverage the power of Substrate in the most non-intrusive way, because everyone who wanted to deal with data on Substrate probably worked with Polkadot.js library and has like all this kinds of experience where something doesn't work or like there are constant updates and so on. We make it, I think we have the best tooling to deal with Substrate data with this release. I can just have a very short snapshot of of a code thing.
Would love
that. A bit of alpha here. Let's see. This is, for example, how you would manipulate this data on the processor level. So you have full control over the data that is fetched from the archive. So you can, for example, process everything in the block. You can subscribe to a specific event and specific fields in this event. You can process everything in this block. So the configuration that you can use it is absolutely limitless. And it will work for data explorers, for wallets, for any imaginable use case that you can think of, because the previous releases of Subsquid were kind of not very suited for applications where you, for example, need to grab all the data and like filter afterwards. This is the Fire Squid part, which is like a major upgrade of our core product, SubSquid, which allows people to build data APIs on top of the on-chain data. And the next release, which is called Giant Squid, is basically a ready-to-use endpoint that contains information about all the major parachains and all the key data inputs that one can think of. Actually, it looks like this. So you have like a big endpoint where there are like subdirectories for each parachain. So far, we have Oster, HydroDX, Kusama, Moonbeam, Moonriver, Polkadot, and others like Akala and Karura on the way of adding. So it's very easy for us to add new ones. And for each parachain, you have a bunch of things that you can ask for. So for example, you can ask what were transfers on Kusama that were sent to a specific address and order it by the date of the transfer. And you just run this query and you have an answer. Again, this is a product for developers most of the time. So this, as you see, is in a human readable form, but it's what is called JSON. But the key point here is that we have already collected all the useful information about transfers, staking, rewards, bonds, XCM transfers, all in a single GraphQL endpoint. So whenever you're building anything resembling an explorer or like collecting data from multiple chains, you just use like a single API and all the data is at your fingertips. So this is like a major thing that we are going to publicly announce at Polkadot Decoded. Right now, it's like still in the beta and in active development. But you can already try and poke around if you navigate to our bounties page and Subsquid repo. And we have already a bounty related to this super API.
I really love that you just shared us some major alpha there. So big things for SubSquid. Good for you guys. Really, you're really working hard and delivering. And that's a big part of it is not talking about it but doing it. And you guys are putting that massively into action. So really nice job there. So in terms of past this, what does the future of SubSquid look like? What's in the roadmap?
The key milestone for us is to build a network, this network is going to include operators that index data, that collect data, and to serve data to the users. And this is our goal till for the next year. We are already investing a lot of time and effort to make sure that running each node is very cheap, because this is actually the key for the economics of the token, because basically the infrastructure costs are always covered by like the token inflation and the rewards. The next key point is that we are envisioning a world where everyone needs an indexing solution, and the throughput for this data is enormous. That's why the infrastructure that we're building and then decentralizing will be able to handle like thousands TPS without sacrificing the speed of indexing. So these are like two things that we're working on.
Yeah, two very big things for sure. So not my last question, but one of my last questions is actually, we talked about, a united ecosystem and how everybody kind of works together. So in terms of partnerships, has it been a good experience building relationships in the ecosystem, and who do you have relationships with?
Oh yeah, actually we have like tons of partnerships. So there are like 3 OGs that been using SubSquid from the very early days, like Interlay, SubSocial, HydroDX. There are more recent ones like Talisman, Composable Finance, just to name a few. And we are also supporting the Aster ecosystem in a pretty big time. So a lot of interesting DeFi projects, like, for example, Orcus Finance, are building on it. And I think this ecosystem is going to flourish. Of course, we support very closely everything that happens on Moonriver and Moonbeam, because we were like very early to support EVM indexing in there. So actually, especially for young projects, we want to make sure that they actually focus on building their core stuff, and we help them with the data.
I love that because, I think a lot of collaboration naturally reaches out to kind of some of the bigger names in the ecosystem, which is fantastic. And they've made a name for themselves, as is, and rightfully so. But I think, like you said, for a lot of new or fresher projects, that's where a lot of the support is needed. So it's really nice to see you contributing there. And anything else that I didn't mention that you want to mention?
First of all, I would like to invite everything to Polkadot Decoded and follow our after party in there, like all the events around it. I think it's going to be huge. And if you're into the ecosystem, then either like of any of the 4 locations is basically a must have. And of course, follow us on Polkadot North America Hackathon, where we have bounties. One of these are like building dig and score for Dot Summer. I think it's a pretty cool one. And this is where you may find these super API very useful because it contains all the relevant information, and we are going to add NFTs and all the relevant data to it. So basically, whenever you put your address, you will be able to see like how degen you are, and like how OG you are, and all that.
I like that.
It would be nice. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Are you guys hiring?
Yes, we do. And we have our positions and angel list. You can pretty easily find it there by SubSquid. And we are always open for DMs. So just like text us either on Discord or like on Telegram, and we can always find something interesting for you.
Fantastic. I love that. It's been so nice talking to you. And I'm really excited to release this episode. I can't wait for it. And yeah, I'm really excited to follow along Subsquid's journey. It's been exciting for me to learn about it also because I'm fairly new to Subsquid other than the relationship I have with your team. So really nice to learn about it and just see you guys having such a key role, not only in, what devs do, but also just a big role in the community in general and uniting the ecosystem. Really, really like that. So thank you so much for speaking to me. This was so much fun.
Thanks a lot for having me. It was a really, really great pleasure.